We are ready to begin our final mandala design. To start, we need to create our square for our final design, and we need to create it onto good paper. So you want either a piece of heavy sketchbook paper or watercolor paper. You're also going to need, of course, a ruler, a compass, and a pencil. So this piece of paper I have is my 9 by 12. If you have something larger, just realize that it's the same procedure. No matter what the size of paper, you have to make it first into a square, and then you have to divide that square into 4 parts so that you can find the center of your square. Then you have to divide those 4 parts in half again, create your circle, connect those marks to the outer edge of the circle, and then through the center of the circle, connect marks on the opposite side of the circles to create your sections. So if you have a piece of paper other than 8.5 by 11 or 9 by 12, you can still do this project. You'll just have to do a little bit of figuring out of measurements. So let's begin with this 9 by 12 piece of paper. My first step with any size piece of paper is to turn it into a square. And the easiest way to do that is to take my shortest measurement, which is 9 inches, and cutting off any excess on the longer side to meet that shorter measurement. So my paper measures 12 inches this way. I need 9 inches to create a square. So that's where I'm going to make my mark. So at the bottom of my paper, as always, ruler, the 0 is lined up on the left edge. Going to make a mark at 9. Move my ruler to the top. Make my mark at 9 inches there. And I'm going to connect those 2 marks. And lightly draw a line. Now that I have that line, I'm going to take scissors and remove that excess paper. So now that I have my square, I need to now make my outer border of my mandala and the 12 divisions. And we've done this before, so in a way this is just a review. I'm going to start once again at the bottom of my paper, and I need to get the halfway measurement on this side. So my paper measures 9 inches. Half of 9 is 4.5. And I need to make that mark at the bottom and at the top. Once I have those 2 marks, I'm going to line them up with my ruler. And from the edge of the paper to the edge of the paper, I'm going to lightly draw a line. Now that I have this line, I'm going to turn my paper 1/4 of a turn so I can do the same thing to these 2 sides. Once again, I'm going to line up my ruler to the bottom of the paper and make a mark at 4.5. And the same thing near the top. I'll make a mark at 4.5. Going to then line those 2 marks up. And draw a line to divide that up into 4 parts. So now that I have this, I need to divide these 4 sections in half again. So basically along each edge of my paper, I'm going to have a mark at the half and a mark at each quarter measurement. So there will be 3 marks along this side. So once again, my ruler at the bottom edge. My paper measures 9. I have a halfway mark at 4 1/2. Half of 4 1/2 is 2 1/4. So I'm going to make my mark. 4 1/2 plus 2 1/4 is 6 3/4. So I'm going to make the marks at the bottom, come to the top, mark at 2 1/4, 6 3/4, and then I'm going to turn my paper to get those same measurements on these 2 other sides. So once again at the bottom, going to line up my ruler and make a mark at 2 1/4, 6 3/4, and again moving my ruler to the top, making a mark at 2 1/4 and 6 3/4. And I'm going to lightly number these marks, starting with the upper left one as 1 and working my way clockwise. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, I'm not making the marks too dark. I'm not making the numbers too big. I want to get rid of them later, so I'm keeping them small. So now that I have my paper divided up into these measurements, I'm ready to draw my outer border circle. So I'm going to put my compass, I'm going to darken up that center with a little tiny dot so it's easier to see. I'm going to put my compass onto the center of my circle, and I'm going to find the measurement on the compass that is going to give me the largest circle all the way around. And once I find it, then I'm going to draw my circle. All the way around the outer edge of my paper. So now that I have my circle and I have my measurements, I'm ready to create my sections. So remember, we're going to start at mark 1. We're connecting it through the center to mark 5. So for all these before we do that, we had to connect it to the outer circle. It's not going to do any good to connect these marks because we're not going to go through the center. We had to first connect it to the outer circle. So I'm connecting mark number 1 to mark number 6. And I'm going to draw a light line to the outer edge of this circle I just drew. And I'm going to connect mark 2 and mark 5 and do the same thing. I'm always stopping at the outer edge of the circle when I connect these marks. I'm going to turn my paper so it's easier to connect number 3 and number 8. Once again, connecting those marks to my outer circle. And the last one of 4 and 7. And once again, stopping at my outer circle. Now that I have those marks attached to the outer circle, I can now connect 1 and 5 through the center of my circle. So when you are doing this stage, you're going to line up marks opposite sides of the circle, and your ruler has to not only line up to them, but go through the center of the circle. So when you do this, like if I went to line up 2 and 7, they're opposite each other on this, this one's on this side of the circle, this one's on this side, but I'm not going through the center. So that means they're not the right two to connect. So 2 and 6 will connect. 3 and 7 will connect. And 4 and 8 will connect. So once I have those connected, I'm going to get rid of the lines and the numbers on the outside of my mandala because I no longer need those. So I have my 12 equal sections. I have my outside border of my mandala. And now the next part is I need to create at least 3 circles on the inside of my mandala. So once again, I'm going to put my compass at the center of my mandala, and I'm going to create some circles around there. So it's up to you where you space these. You can have some close, you can have them far away, and the spacing between them is also up to you. But you must have at least 3 circles inside of your mandala design. So that meets my minimum requirements. Outside border, 12 sections that are evenly spaced, and 3 circles inside of my mandala. This now will allow us to prepare to choose one of our practice patterns that you did earlier and to recreate it onto your good mandala project. If you want to add more circles than 3, that is up to you, just as long as you meet these basic requirements.